The house with a room no one entered. On the Repressed. A family had lived for generations in a house with one room no one entered. No one remembered why. The house was old, even by the standards of that province. It had been built, the deeds said, by an ancestor 7 generations back, of whom nothing else was known. The corridors were long, the rooms were many. The family had, over the generations, used most of them for sleeping, for eating, for storing apples in winter, for receiving guests, for the small rituals that families develop when they have lived in one place for a long time. But one room, at the end of the long corridor on the upper floor, was not used. The grandmothers spoke of the room only in whispers, and only when the children were sleeping. The grandfathers did not speak of it at all. The room had a wooden door, dark with age, with an iron handle that had been polished by no one's hand in many years. The handle was never turned. The children grew up understanding, without being told, that the door was not to be touched. They did not, in any of the generations, ask why. The not asking was passed down with the house. In the 7th generation, in the winter of a particular year, the youngest child of the new generation walked down the corridor while the rest of the family slept. She was a quiet girl, 6 years old, with a habit of asking questions no one wanted to answer. She had asked, at 5, where her grandfather had gone when he had died, and her mother had cried, and the question had not been answered. She had asked at 4 why the cook was sad on Tuesdays, and the cook had stopped speaking to her for a week. She had learned, by 6, to ask her questions in her own head and to find the answers when she could, by herself. She had been thinking about the room for several months. She had not, in those months, spoken to anyone about it. She had only walked past the door on her way to her own room, and she had felt each time that the door was less closed than the rest of the family believed it to be. On the winter night in question, she rose from her bed at midnight. She walked down the corridor in her white nightgown, barefoot on the cold floorboards. She did not, in her walking, make a sound. She had been practicing silence since the age of 3. She reached the door. She turned the handle. The door opened easily. Inside the room was furniture, small furniture, the right size for a 6-year-old. A small chair of dark wood with a green cushion, a small table beside the chair with a candle on it that was already lit, a small bed against the far wall with a white coverlet, a small fireplace on the right wall with a fire already burning. The room was warm. The room was, in fact, the most welcoming room in the house. She walked in. She closed the door behind her. She sat down on the small chair. The fire was, she observed, exactly the right size to warm her hands without burning her if she leaned forward. The chair was, she observed, exactly the right size for her. The candle on the table was at exactly the right height to read by. She did not, that first night, ask the room any questions. She sat. She warmed her hands. She watched the fire. She felt in her chest a feeling she had not in 6 years felt anywhere else in the house, the feeling of being expected. After perhaps an hour, she spoke. "How long have you been burning?" she asked the fire. "As long as the house has stood," said the fire. "Why did no one come to you?" "They were afraid," said the fire. "They were told as children not to come. The ones who told them had been told the same. None of them remembered why. They had also, by the time they were grown, lost the size. The chair is the right size for a 6-year-old. By the time a child in this family is brave enough to disobey their parents, they are too big for the chair. They open the door, they see the small furniture. They feel ridiculous. They close the door, they go back. The room has waited, generation after generation, for a child small enough to fit and brave enough to come. You are the first." "Why was I not afraid?" "Because you have been alone for a long time," said the fire. "Your family does not in the daily sense see you. Your mother sees you when she remembers, your father not at all. The cook saw you once and stopped. You have been raised in this house as if you were furniture yourself. You have learned to make your own welcome. The not being welcomed is what made you ready to find me. The children of this family who are welcomed do not come down the corridor at midnight. They do not need to, you needed to. Will you tell me what is in this room?" "You are in this room," said the fire. "That is what is in this room. The room is for you. The room has been for every child of this family who was small enough and alone enough. Most of them did not come. The room held itself for you. The chair waited. The bed waited. I waited. The candle, which has been lit for 200 years, did not, in any of the 200 years, go out. We have been keeping a place for the child of the family who would not be received by the family. You have. Come, the keeping is done. Now we will warm you every night for as long as you can come. She came to the room every evening after that. She did not tell the others. They did not ask. The family went on with its life. The parents made the meals. The cook cooked. The grandmothers spoke in whispers when the children were sleeping. The girl walked each night down the long corridor, and she sat in the small chair, and she warmed her hands at the small fire, and she was, for an hour each night, held by the room that had been waiting 7 generations for her. She grew. By the time she was 9, she was, in fact, too large for the chair. She had expected this. She had been told by the fire in her 6th year that the chair would not fit her forever. The fire had told her how to prepare. She had, over those 3 years, drawn in a small book, the room exactly, the small chair, the small table, the small bed, the small fireplace, the candle, the white coverlet. She had memorized the warmth. When she could no longer fit, she stopped coming. The room had told her she should. The room did not need her after she had outgrown the chair. The room would wait again for the next small child of the family who was alone enough to come. She kept the small book. She grew up. She moved away from the house at 18. She had her own daughter in her 30s. She did not, when her daughter was 3, tell her about the room. She had been told by the fire that telling the next child would spoil it. The child had to find the room on her own in her own midnight. She let her daughter find her own midnights. Her daughter found, in time, a small fireplace of her own in a different room of a different house. The house of the original family is, in some province, still standing. The room is, in some province, still warm. The chair has been the right size for many children in many generations who were small enough and alone enough. The room no one entered was warm. The fire was lit. The chair was the right size. What was forbidden was waiting for whoever was brave enough to sit in it. The work is to be small enough and alone enough. The work is also to be brave enough to disobey. At midnight, the room does not need you after you outgrow the chair. The room will hold the next child. The fire does not go out.